Okay, man. I'm just touching on this, and I want to talk for a second because we've talked about this, about how the aim of the enemy was to get and take away Samson's devotion and cause him to become just like a mere man, just like everybody else. And part of that Nazarite commitment that he had, or that Nazarite consecration, most people think it was just the hair, but he wasn't to drink wine. He wasn't to touch anything dead. He was not to touch anything unclean. And if you look at the story of Samson's life, almost from the beginning, you begin to see, even though he had this consecration to God, he began to compromise in some areas. You know, the first wife that he had, he looked and it was a Philistine woman, and the law had already been written, and he knew that he was not to marry a Philistine woman. He shouldn't have eyes for a Philistine woman. So he began to compromise there. Even his parents, when he said, "I want this woman," and his parents said, "Isn't there one of your own family, your own clan, part of the nation of Israel? You know, can't you find a wife there?" He said, "No, I want that woman." So that was a compromise. He began to compromise some things in his life. He killed that lion, and yes, that lion attacked him, but then we find another time he went by there, and he was not to touch anything dead, but here was this lion, and he saw that the bees had made a nest in there and made a hive, and he reached into that carcass and he took some of that honey, which was a compromise to his consecration or devotion to God. And a lot of times we get to the very end and we look at, gosh, he let Delilah cut his hair. But you see, long before someone gets to their final thing, they've compromised on a number of areas. You know, a person who commits adultery doesn't just hop into bed overnight. There's usually a number of compromises that have taken place. Recently, our vice president was ridiculed to a degree because he refuses to have lunch or have a meeting behind closed doors with a woman that isn't his wife, and people ridiculed him over that and thought that was crazy. But that's a smart man. And in his life, he knew that there are certain areas that he did not want to compromise, because one compromise leads to another compromise, which leads to another compromise, which leads to another compromise. Samson didn't give up his entire devotion to God immediately, but he compromised it little by little by little. Just a question: have you compromised any on your devotion to God?